and welcome to the beautiful Weston Pools on what can only be described as a rather moist day. I am having one of the best winter sessions I've ever had. It is absolutely ridiculous. Bearing in mind it was minus 62 last night, 12 foot of ice everywhere. No, it wasn't really, but it was proper cold. We're in the middle of December now. It was sort of, I think it was minus 2 last night. As I said, there was ice on it last week, and the fishing is just absolutely ridiculous. I've started off on a swim 30 metres out to my left, you know, not really knowing what to expect, cupped a bit of bait in. I've had 2 F1s and 2 chucks, and I started getting funny bites. So then I've opened up a swim right out in front of me where I've been loose feeding. Now bearing in mind, I've only been fishing for probably just over an hour. I've had 10 F1s, I've had a common about £3, I've had 5 or 6 hide, I've had 5 or 6 big roach. It's just absolutely ridiculous. Let me show you what I mean. So, what we're doing, I'm not, you know how much I dislike fishing up in the water. Now I could quite easily put a rig on to fish up in the water and probably get an eider chuck, but the F1s are underneath them. Obviously I'm going to go through rigs with you in a sec. So what I'm doing, I've got quite a light float on. That's going to go down fairly quick, but then my droppers, which I'll show you in a sec, my droppers are bringing that bait in lovely and natural to where the F1s are. Obviously as a matchman I always want to think of how I'm going to put the most amount of weight in my net. It's not all about fish, it's about weight. Now you'll see the stamp of the F1s should we hopefully catch one in a sec, and there are a lot. I think that's an hide, so that was an hide up in the water. The F1s are a lot bigger than these hide. Bearing in mind how much I do love these silvers, you can't ignore the F1s when they're there, because they're not, I mean it's winter, they're like ice cubes, these fish, they're not really fighting, so you can do a silly weight in a short space of time. So you see on that one folks how I netted that fish at distance. You know, I've got a nice long, he swallowed it in, I've got a nice long 4 metre handle on so I can get into him straight away. You know, that's a smaller hide than what I've been catching. He's probably sort of 6 ounce in, but some of them have been like 8 or 10 ounce, but it's still not as quick as when them F1s are there. So we're on double white maggot, which is a personal favourite of mine, as most of you will know, certainly for sort of like hide and chub, but in general any sort of clearish venue, and honestly the venue's so clear you can see sort of like the fishing in 3 foot of water. It's ridiculous. So a light coloured bait like white maggot, or you know, corn skin, that's why it works so well, and obviously bread, dobbing bread, that's why it works so well in the winter when the water goes really quick, really clear, how dare I. So I didn't feed that time I shipped out, I'm feeding on top of the rig. Now you'll not, oh here we go, you'll notice what I'm doing with that rig. As I'm laying it in, I'm flicking it out to the side and holding the tight. Oh, it's fell off. Me talking to all you lovely lot, and it's fell off. What I'm doing, I'm laying the rig out to the side because the ledge is sort of like just ever so slightly just nipping off. So I'm laying it out to the side, holding a tight line with a carbon stem float. Again, I'm going to talk you through the rig in a sec, so it's coming down lovely and slow. Most of them fish, or certainly the F1s, they're taking it as it hits the bottom. They're watching it from sort of like 18 inches off the bottom, and then they're just nailing it as soon as it hits it. It's proper shocked me. I knew we'd get bites, obviously it's Weston Pools, isn't it? We'll always get bites, but I never thought it'd be anything like this. There just must be a massive ball of fish there. In fact, when I feed the maggots, you can see the hide flashing under the surface, but again, I want to get to them F1s, so that'd have been a liner. Anything slow, I don't miss proper bites, you know that folks. Anything slow or to the side is a liner. We're waiting for it to go thump nice and quick. Now I might have no choice in a sec. Again, that's a bite then up in the water. I might have to come shallow. But what I'm trying to do, I want to show you these F1s and the stamp of them. But obviously match conditions, you've got to think about what's fast. That's fell off again. I'm rushing these fish trying to get them in quick for you. You've got to think about what's quickest, or the quickest way of putting a weight of fish in your net. Now, although if I'd have gone shallow, I might have had 3 or 4 hide by now, or roach and what have you. The F1s are too big to miss out on. I had a quick go in it for like 10 minutes before. Didn't have any F1s, but I think we had like 5 eyes. But I went back on the bottom, see this one just come up then. Went back on the bottom and we've had some lovely F1s. See if we can get one this time. If we can't, I'm going to stop doing what I'm doing and I'll talk you lovely lot through the rigs. That's a bigger hide. So it might be now time to come up in the water. But before we do all that, you're getting in the way, you Tom. Before we do all that, I'm going to talk you a lovely lot through my rig. So this is a nicer stamper vibe. We don't mind catching these all the time. There's so many of them there. You can see them, as I say, you can see them flashing under the water. Yeah, we don't mind them ones. He's getting on for 8 ounce him. Lovely him. So I think without further ado, I'm going to talk you lovely people through the rigs that I'm using. So the rig for fishing on the bottom, why I'm using the float, why I've got it shotted how I have, the elastics, the lines, the hooks, and then I'm going to talk you through the shallow rig for when the fish are coming in up in the water, which they are. Okay then, as promised, the rigs. So starting off at sort of 13 metres, as I say, I've had 2 swims on the go and I'm fishing on the bottom to start with. But as all of you know, I do quite like fishing shallow. So first things first, the deep rig. Now we'll start right at the top. We've got a lovely soft 3 to 6's map elastic. Now the reason for a soft elastic, even though there's some great big wobbly things in here, you know, big carp, there's big F1s, there's big everything. I think there's even great big barbel. There might even be like sturgeon and sharks and dogfish and things like that in. I don't think there is. But anyway, the beauty of a soft elastic is there's lots of silvers in here, lots of hide, lots of chub, lots of roach. I don't want to be bumping them. Through all my match fishing, I'm a great advocate of using soft elastic. So the beauty of that is, as long as you've got a puller, you get it back to your top kit, you just keep pulling. Obviously you've seen some of the fish that we've been catching already, they're pulling loads and loads of elastic out, but as long as you keep that the top kit nice and low and just keep pulling, you're going to get them in no time. So first things first, a lovely soft elastic. Connection wise, I favour these little tiny beads so that it's a lovely nice smooth strike, you straight into the fish. Get away with Dacrons, connectors, it doesn't really matter, that's all about personal preference. So the next thing is the main line. The main line this time of year is either 0.14 or 0.15. You don't really need to go any lighter and you don't need to go any heavier. It's all about the hook lengths in this game anyway. So 0.15 main line. Now you'll notice we've got 2 foot. There's my 7 foot marker, there's my 5 foot marker. I like to leave a minimum of 2 foot between pole tip and float this time of year, especially when the water's clear. It's a massive advantage for me, and it's where, as an angling coach, I see a lot of people go wrong. They just have the line pole tip to float far too short. Now what's happening is, you can imagine the water's very, very clear. We probably can see like 3 to 3.5 foot down. The fish can see your pole. And that's why obviously like feeder works well this time of year, a little maggot feeder and a waggler, because there's nothing over the reds to spook the fish. Now we have got the advantage of it being quite a dull day, you know. Obviously if it's really clear, then even more so focus on that, having a good distance of line between your pole tip and your float. So just above the float, we'll talk through float in a sec, I've got the ever faithful back shots on. I'm a massive advocate of using back shots. I don't think there'll be a situation now where I won't use back shots, apart from when I'm fishing shallow, you know, with like that much line between pole tip and float, but them days are gone. So we've got 2 number 8s there, anything from sort of 4 to 6 inches above my float. Now float wise, this takes 9 number 10s, so it's roughly sort of like a 412s in old school money, and you can see there the marker on my top kit, it's exactly 5 foot. So 412s and 5 foot, the way the fish are, we could get away with the 410s, you know. I mean, it's forecast loads of wind today, it's supposed to be like getting the tail end of a hurricane, but it's not actually that bad. I mean, we are sheltered here, but you know, in that depth of water this time of year, you can get away with fishing very, very light floats. Again, completely the opposite in the summer, where you've got to be fishing more positive because of line bites, you know, far hook fish. You've got to be fishing a lot more direct to your hook, so that's why you need 414s or 416s floats. But a 412 float is perfect. Now, have a look at the shape of it. Again, this time of year, I will always use sort of this stretch rugby ball, the old style Chianti style shape float. It makes a massive difference. Stem wise, again, very important that I'm using a carbon stem today. Now the reason for that is, as you're laying the rig out, in this case we're laying it from right to left because we're on a tiny slope, which I'll talk you through in a sec. That float is coming down, as I keep a tight line to the back shot, it's coming down on that kind of an angle. If we had a wire stem float on, thump, it's settled straight away. I don't want that because I want to be checking for bites on the drop, and that's my cue usually to come up in the water when I start getting them bites as the float's at that funny angle. Bristle wise, To be honest with you, it doesn't make a blind bit of difference, you know. You could get away with like a 2, maybe a 2.5mm bristle, as long as it's dotted right. Honestly, it doesn't matter. I've got this dotted to like, you know, sort of 2mm, maybe 3mm, and I've got a little bit of grease on it, just so I can always see that float. So 3 rubbers on the float as well, just in case one breaks, you can bring the other one down into play. So as I said, that's at 5 foot. Now, the bulk shot, where's our bulk shot? So our bulk shot, you can see there, it's roughly about 18 inches away. So we've got a string of 7 number 10 shot. Now, stots as opposed to shots, does it matter? Personally, it doesn't really matter. It's just personal preference. But the reason I don't like stots is because they move too much. It does my head in, especially using a fairly deep landing net. Your stots will be moving all over the place all the time. So I much prefer to use shots. As long as it's a good quality lead shot, you'll not have a problem. So we've got 7 number 10s on, and I've just got a trimming number 12 shot on there. Now, coming down the line, this is the important bit. So what you've got the bulk shot to get your bait down fairly quick, but then in the last 18 inches where them big wobbly F1s are and the odd carp, this is where you want everything nice and natural. So what I've got is 3 number 11s. If it was a little bit windier today, you know, we had lots of undertow, they'd be number 10s. If I was after skimmers, they'd be number 9s. No, very positive. So 3 number 11s spaced evenly down the line. What's that? They're sort of like 3 and a bit inches apart. Waffling, aren't I? I love waffling. You know me waffling. I talk all day about fishing. So coming down to the important bit, the hook length. We've got a 0.10 hook length, and we've got an 18s Guru F1 pellet. I pretty much use the Guru F1's pellet for probably 80% of my fishing now. I think they're brilliant. They're quite a smallish hook, but they're very, very fine wire. So you can get away with certainly 18s, you can get away with 16s, as long as you hook the maggots right, which I'll show you in a sec. And that's pretty much it, you know, nice light rig. Again, it's all about the feeding, which we'll go through later on. So on to my favourite shallow rig now. And again, you'll notice straight away, the elastics are exactly the same, 3 to 6s. We've got exactly the same main line, same hook length, so it's 0.15 to 0.10. Look at that distance again. We've got a good 2 foot between your pole tip and your float. Now obviously that could be changing, obviously depending on where the fish are in the water, but again, that's all to do with your feeding. If you feed them right, you're going to get them at the same depth all the time. So we've got the similar style of float on, but look at that, it only takes 4 number 11s. Now literally it does take 4 number 11 shot. So we've got one there, which is what, probably 6 or 7 inches down. Then we've got 1 3 inches away, 1 3 inches away, 1 3 inches away, and then we've got our hook length, which again is the exact same hook, 18s F1 pellet with a 0.10, and it's set at what's that? What's set at? It's probably 2.5 to 3 foot. I've had one quick go on this before, but the eyes are a bit smaller. They were sort of like 6 ounce, something like that. But then when you're getting through to them F1s at the bottom, they're like 2.5 to 3 pound. They're worth catching. So at the minute, it's not worth me fishing shallow. Although I love fishing shallow, I could get a bite of chuck, but it's one fish for sort of like, you know, 6 or 7 eyed. So at the minute, it's a lot more beneficial for me to fish. It's a big word for me, isn't it? Beneficial. I don't even know what it means. I just heard someone say it. It's a lot more beneficial for me to fish for the F1s. So hooking the bait. Now this is very important. A lot of anglers struggle when they're hooking baits. I'm going to talk you through it. In fact, we'll do the shallow one first, and then I'll go out and catch one on that deeper rig. So what we're doing with these maggots, now bearing in mind I love fishing white maggots, certainly for sort of like roach, chub-eyed, fish that love to feed up in the water, because the water's so clear, a white maggot does stand out a lot better than a red. But I'll always carry whites and reds. Obviously reds are the proper, you know, it's proper traditional bait, isn't it? But when you're fishing through the water, it's very important that you side hook the maggot. What that does, it parachutes out, and it falls a lot slower as it's falling. So all I'm doing, I'm folding them out, I'm squeezing it out, folding it over, and then I'm going to come down long ways through the maggot, so it falls. If you put some maggots in the side and watch how all maggots fall, they all fall flat like that. They never fall the traditional way you'd hook them, which is how I'm going to do for this deep rig now. So whenever you're fishing through the water, that's how you want to hook them. So very quickly now, because I know I'm waffling, but I can't help myself, I'm going to put double maggot on this. Now again, this is very important that you're hooking it right. Where have we got? Oh, we're fast. Where are we fast? I've let go of it and everything, Tom. We're fast in nettles here. Come here. Let me get rid of that there. Tell you what, it's all live this, folks. You know what I mean? We're not messing about here. It's a good job they don't sting you when it's cold. Right, let's get some bait. I'm going to show you hooking these. So double maggot. So the traditional way of putting one on is just to come through that little frilly bit. So we just want to nick it through that frilly bit so you don't burst it, and it's got plenty of wriggle. Come on, wriggle, wriggle, there we go. So it's got plenty of wriggle in it. Now the next one you want to put on, because I love fishing double maggot, you know, it's a standout bait. That bigger bait, the fish tend to attack it more, and you'll catch bigger fish on it as well. Giving away all my tips, aren't I? How dare I? So the second one you want to put on is upside down, so you just want to nick it through the tip, as long as you don't burst it. Again, bearing in mind we're fishing sort of an inch and a bit over depth, that is going to be on the bottom. All them vibrations are going off, and we've got a nice sort of like biggish but fine wire hook to snare the fish. Well, let's go and see it in action, folks. Woohoo! What a session we've had today. It's been absolutely ridiculous. Considering the conditions, how cold, just let me feed my friend. Considering the conditions, got to feed the wildlife, haven't you? And how cold it's been, I can't remember having a session like this ever. It's just been phenomenal. I've fished for like 2.5 hours, and for the last half an hour, I bet you can guess what I've been doing. It's all been about shallow fishing. I had an F1 sort of 5 or 6 fish ago. They're just going absolutely nuts. You can see the fish swirling in sort of like a foot under the surface. The rig started off at 3 foot. We're now at sort of 2 foot, and it's black. Watch how quick it is. Now, incidentally, I was feeding a bit heavier when I was fishing on the bottom. I was probably putting 25, 30 maggots in. I've cut down now to sort of 10 or 12 maggots. And what that does, it enables me to get them fish competing, so that once my bait's in there, the fish will come into it and smash into it rather than going down too deep if you're putting too much bait in. So, first things first, feed the bait, ship out nice and quick. As long as your rollers are right behind you, you don't need to look behind you whatsoever. Nice and smooth, have that tight angle on that rig. So as it comes in, fish takes it, and we're into a fish straight away. It is just absolutely ridiculous. It's been like this for a good, well, I've been on it sort of half an hour, and it's been solid. I bet we've got a good 40 pound in net, 2.5 hours fishing. Not bad for a freezing cold winter's day, is it? Now, obviously, again, this is the beauty of that light elastic. Oh, we've snared a lily pad. Light elastic and the nice long landing net handle. You can get into them fish as soon as they pop up. And all the hide have been that kind of stamp, you know, sort of 6 to 8 ounce. We've had the odd one around 10 ounce, but most have been 6 to 8 ounce. With how quick they're coming, you would not be able to beat this for speed in a match. This is what you'd be on now, without a doubt. Even, you know, we're getting the odd F1 on the bottom. We started to fire look a few, so we've come up in the water. We've had one F1, so that tells you that they're quite happy to feed up in the water. But the amount of hide there, it's just phenomenal. What I'm doing as well is occasionally flicking it past the feed, you know, trying to tempt them bigger, wiser fish. That one actually ate me float, that, but it's gone down and ate me bait as well, so it doesn't matter. You know, it's as soon as I've hooked a fish as well, pulls out to the side and I feed again. I want to get them fish competing all the time. And just before I ship out, the most important thing is that I'm putting that bait in. It's just unbelievable, this. I'll show you the depth that I'm at when we get this one, just so you can see. But I'd say you can, them fish are still, they're still swirling over there on that bait I put in. Look, another decent stamp. I'll come back, put that rig into the bottom of my pole so you can see we are at, look, there's 2 foot. We started off at sort of maybe 3.5 foot or something, and we're down to 2 foot. And to be fair, the fish are probably even shallower than that. It's just brilliant. I can't ever remember having a session like this ever. Still on side hook maggot, but again, you know, you can experiment with that on the day. It seems to be when you hook the maggot normal, you'll hit like 1 in 3 bites. When you hook it through the side, you don't miss anything. The other thing to try as well is certainly double maggot, because obviously there's a bigger standout bait, the fish tend to attack it a lot more. But match conditions, if you're catching on something, don't change anything. The only time you change things is if, you know, it's not going according to plan, if you're not getting bites, If you're getting bites but missing a lot, then that's usually something to do with your hook bait, so change that around. If you're getting bites and missing them, then just come a little bit shallower. If you're not getting them, just go deeper. That's the only things to look out for, but usually it's down to your feed. So cut that feed right back when you're going to fish shallow and get them competing. Honestly, I've had one of the best sessions ever. You've got to come and try Weston Pools. It's a beautiful fishery, and they pour a mean pint as well. And in fact, I think I'll give it another 10 minutes and then I'm going to get all snarled up in the bar.